Joining us now, Tim Twentyman, Detroit Lions insider. He writes for DetroitLions.com, and a specialist on the elders of defense, Kyle Van Noy and Ziggy Ansah. We gave you that nickname for them last time we talked to you, Tim. Have you been able to use it in any article yet?
I have not used it yet. I'm waiting for football to begin for real. This is the preseason, so nicknames are not used in the preseason. We wait till the real football begins, and then I will use it.
Yeah, take it easy. That's for sure. Is that something that you would like to use in an article, though, for those two, LDS Detroit Lions players?
Since I'm talking to you guys right now, I'm going to say yes.
Good answer.
Do we need to come up with a better one for you to actually use it? What's the case there?
No, that's good. Well, you guys, Ziggy's got to get on the field first.
That's
I
true.
can't be putting nicknames out here until Ziggy gets on the field. So, once Ziggy gets on the field, then we can start talking nicknames.
Well, speaking of Ziggy Ansah and his injury, when do you anticipate that he will get back on the field for the Detroit Lions?
Yeah, I think it's going to be close, guys. As you guys know, he had off-season shoulder surgery, and you've seen him ramp it up at practice on the side. Now, he's not participating in practice. He's still on the PUP list. But, the other day he was wearing shoulder pads and working on the side. And he was doing sled work. And if you have a shoulder injury and you're at a point now where you can wear shoulder pads and do sled work, I think it's getting pretty close. So they're obviously going to be very cautious with him. They've got big plans for Ziggy this year, and they're not going to rush him. Like I said, it's preseason. These things don't count. They want him for September and not August. But I anticipate him coming off PUP fairly soon, guys.
What was the expectation for Ziggy in his rookie year compared to how he did?
I would say he probably exceeded expectations a little bit. He hadn't been playing football that long. It was more of a projection with him. The Lions loved his size, his speed. I think they were a little bit surprised at how good of instincts he has for not playing the game all that long. Being able to drop in coverage and read reverses and read screens. He really did a terrific job of that, staying home and just football instincts. And so I think the expectations have ramped up a lot now that they've seen that. He had 8 sacks, led all rookies last year. And I think the double-digit sack season in this defense is going to be a lot more aggressive. I think that's certainly the expectation at this point.
Lions insider Tim Twentyman joining us on BYU Sports Nation. You can follow him at T20man on the Twitter machine. Tim, let's talk about Kyle Van Noy. He made his preseason NFL debut against Johnny Manziel and the Cleveland Browns. How do you feel? Well, I guess I should say, how does Lions Nation feel that Kyle Van Noy performed on the field?
Well, I thought he flashed. He made a couple plays. It was close there if he was going to get a fumble on that pass. I thought he played.
Yeah.
He recognized the fullback coming out. He showed why the Lions drafted him. He's got great size, but also has speed, can cover, can do a lot of different things. And, we talked about instincts with Ziggy. I thought Kyle showed it on that play. Very close to being a fumble. They called it incomplete. But I think those are the plays that the Lions are expecting him to make. This is a team that didn't turn opponents over enough last year and didn't close out games. They drafted Kyle Van Noy to cause havoc, get turnovers, and help them close out games. And I thought, we saw a flash of that Saturday night versus Cleveland on that one particular play.
And there were 2 other plays that stuck out to me, too. A third down with Johnny Manziel that he eluded Van Noy in the backfield. And then on the 4th down as well, Van Noy in a position to make the play, unfortunately didn't. But that's the type of play that they're hoping he can close out this year, right, for the Lions?
Right. Yeah, he's got to finish, and I think he's going to learn real quick at this level, just the speed. And I think he's figuring that out in practice. But when you get into a game situation, it ramps up. And I thought, playing against Johnny Manziel and the type of quarterback he is probably good for Kyle that first game. You're talking about the play where Kyle read it terrifically. It was a boot, and Johnny went out the pocket. Kyle stayed home, was there to make the play. I think he left his feet, went down to his knees there instead of driving and really finishing on Johnny, and Manziel was able to elude him. But everything is great about that play except for the finish, and I think that's good for him. He's going to learn that guys are quicker, guys are faster, the speed ramps up here, and he'll get it. He's a good player.
It was reported by a Detroit sports anchor that Kyle Van Noy said in a roundabout way, speaking of Johnny Manziel, he's just another quarterback, and people have blown Johnny Manziel out of proportion. He would later say that he expects him to have a good career and to be a good quarterback.
He's a gamer.
But that kind of became, it seemed from our perspective, that kind of became a story that Kyle Van Noy was saying, well, he's kind of blown out of proportion. Is this story being blown out of proportion?
I think so. I mean, not a lot of our media has picked up on it, the beat writers and anything like that. And I don't think Kyle was even asked about the other day when he talked to us. I think a lot of NFL players feel that way. I mean, look, this is a kid has the #1 jersey in sales in football, and he hadn't played a snap yet. So it's just like Tim Tebow a few years ago. Things do get bent out of proportion a little bit, and I'm sure Kyle was sick of answering Johnny Manziel questions leading up into that game. I think a lot of players were. Jim Caldwell, the head coach, certainly was, to a point where he finally just said, look, we're not game planning against anybody. I think the Lions are glad that that's behind them, but I don't think it's that big of a deal in terms of his comments or stirring controversy or anything like that. Kyle just wants to play football. You guys know that better than anyone. He's a smart guy, and I just said something, answered a question, but it's not a big deal.
Tim, what's the update on Kyle Van Noy's thumb? What happened, and then how has he been able to get back on the field?
Yeah, he just kind of jammed it up pretty good in an individual drill. And the funny thing is, he went in, got some X-rays, and got it checked out, and then came back out to practice and wanted to jump right back into the drill. And the trainer actually had to come over and take his helmet from him and say, "No, Kyle, you're going to sit this practice out." Sat out the rest of practice, but was back the next day. Obviously played in the game, and look, linebackers have played with casts. They've played with broken arms. I mean, linebackers are a different breed of football players.
Yes.
So Kyle ain't gonna let a little thumb injury mess with him. He doesn't have it wrapped heavily and things like that. So I think that's way behind him at this point.
Tim Twentyman, Detroit Lions insider, writes for the DetroitLions.com, their lead writer, joining BYU Sports Nation. Tim, for me, the initial reaction when I saw Kyle play against Cleveland on Saturday night was, he looks huge. And I'm like, is that pads, or have you noticed him bulk up since he arrived in Detroit?
No, it was the first time I saw him, I was surprised with how big he was, too, because you watch him on film and you watch some of his BYU highlights, and he's so fast, and the instincts are there, and he's out in coverage, and he's, intercepting passes and running for touchdowns, and I didn't anticipate him being really that big. This is an NFL weight program now. He's with the big boys now, and so it's natural to see guys bulk up a little bit, especially at that position when they first come into the league. The weight training is extensive. It's different. This is his job now, and players are expected to treat it as such. So it's natural for them to gain some strength and stuff like that. But I think a lot of people were surprised at how big he was just when he came in, and that's why the Lions love him, and that's why they're going to do a lot of different things with him. Look, he spends half his practice in terms of individual drills with the defensive line, and then half with the linebackers.
Interesting.
So, he's going to play that Sam position. He's going to play on the line of scrimmage, and they're going to ask him to go after the quarterback line. You have to be big, strong if you're going to take on some of them offensive linemen and those tight ends. So, he's a big guy, and they had him in mind when they developed that position because he can do so many things because of that size, strength, and all the other things that he offers.
A couple months ago, we had you on the program. We talked about the possibility of Kyle Van Noy starting at Sam linebacker this season. Where does he stand in that opportunity to possibly start or just get a lot of playing time in situations?
Well, he's going to get a lot of playing time no matter what. I mean, the Lions rotate guys, and we've seen some 4 linebacker sets. So I anticipate that being his job come week 1 of the regular season. But, he's got a veteran in front of him, a veteran guy who was undrafted, in Ashley Palmer, a guy who, played special teams in this league for a number of years and finally got an opportunity to start and played pretty well as a 2-down linebacker last year for the Lions. So, Ashley Palmer has worked hard to get where he's at, and he's not going to give his position up freely to a rookie. But that being said, they drafted Kyle Van Noy in the second round for a reason, and he fits exactly what they want from this, 4-3 Sam linebacker spot. So, there's still 3 games to go, and a lot can happen. But I certainly do anticipate him being the starter and contributing a lot this year come week 1.
What does Jim Caldwell say about guys like Kyle Van Noy and Ziggy Ansah?
Well, I think they love versatility. I think that's the word that you hear from Jim Caldwell and his coaching staff a lot, especially when it comes to Van Noy, but even Ziggy too. I mean, this team and this defense, Tara Lawson's defense, is very different than Jim Schwartz's, and they're going to do a lot of different things with guys. I mean, you're not going to see Ziggy Ansah always on the right in the 9 technique this year. You're just not going to see it, guys. I mean, he's going to be moved around. He's going to be in line. You're going to see times when he's standing up when times when he drops into coverage, and I think you're going to see the same thing with Kyle Vanoy as well. There's going to be times when he's coming after the quarterback. He's going to be on the line of scrimmage. He's going to be off the line of scrimmage in a base, regular 4-3 linebacker spot. So I think when coaches talk about those two guys, versatility is the big word because they're going to do so much with those guys. It's going to be fun to watch.
How much do Ziggy and Kyle Van Noy interact during practice?
All the time. All the time you see them together. And the fact that Ziggy isn't practicing right now, obviously, gives him a little freedom to kind of, wander around in team drills and stuff. And he always finds Kyle Vanoy around. You see those guys talking all the time when they're doing special teams and they're not in, or Kyle's not in a rep, and you see him and Ziggy talking. So they remain close friends. Ziggy was in Kyle's wedding, a couple months ago, and they are very close friends. And you could tell in practice that Kyle's kind of, picking Ziggy's brain a little bit about this whole NFL thing. The roles have kind of reversed in that sense.
Understandably, much of BYU Sports Nation has now inherited the Detroit Lions as, if not their favorite NFL team, one of their favorite NFL teams. What are the expectations for the Lions this year, realistically?
Well, I think there's high expectations. I don't know if I threw the stat at you guys last time, but this was a football team that was either tied or had the lead in 15 to 16 games in the fourth quarter last year, and they finished 7-9. I mean, just think about that. You were in basically every ball game. 15 times you gave. It was a play here, a play there that was the difference in the fourth quarter. And so, Jim Caldwell inherits a roster that's got Matthew Stafford, Ndamukong Suh, Calvin Johnson, Reggie Bush, Joy Bell. I can continue on. DeAndre Levy, Nick Fairley. And so it's a talented roster. They just really had to get out of their own way. Turnovers, little things in the fourth quarter, and I think that's what Jim Caldwell's come in and focused on. Let's not turn the ball over. Let's do some of the little fundamental things right. Let's not kill ourselves with penalties. And they have high expectations because this is a talented roster. Now, that being said, they play in a tough division in the NFC North. Green Bay Packers obviously are still the team to beat with Aaron Rodgers and all those weapons. And I think Chicago's improved themselves this offseason too, and they have a terrific offensive football team. So it's going to be tough, but I think the expectations certainly are for the Lions to be playing meaningful football in December, looking to try and make the playoffs, and then anything can happen from there.
Tim Twentyman, Lions insider since 2009 and lead writer for DetroitLions.com. Give him a follow on Twitter at T20man. Always good to talk to you, Tim. We appreciate the insight into the elders of defense.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you when the season starts.
Sounds good. Go Lions.